Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another LinkedIn Live. Sorry if I had the time wrong and you were expecting an 11 o'clock Eastern time show. It is actually a 12 o'clock Eastern time show. Thank you guys for joining me. Today, I have Austin Gregory. He is a local to the Hampton Roads area if you are located in Virginia and has such a super impressive background. So I'll get into that in just a second, but welcome to the show, Austin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Really excited to be here with you.
Yeah. So Austin has done so many different things. I met him speaking at a local event, and over time, we've just connected more and more throughout mutual organizations and felt like he would be a really great one to bring on the show today. So, not only is he an entrepreneur, but he's a business strategist, and he has worked in all different industries from construction to sports, local businesses, and nonprofits. He is currently the director of business development at Slope Pro Roofing, where he's helped scale operations and land some major partnerships. He's also the founder of Eat Local 757, which is a platform supporting small businesses. He is a marketing or was a marketing consultant for Lionsbridge FC and the former director of advancement at the Special Olympics in Virginia. So that is just to name a few of the very impressive things that Austin has done, and excited to dive into some of those with you guys today.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it, Lauren.
So, marketing consultant, Lionbridge. So, is that something that you are still doing on the side, or is that something that you have since moved on from?
Yeah, I kind of took a step back from that kind of stuff. So originally, when I started my career in the Hampton Roads, it was in sports. It was in college athletics. I kind of found that I wanted to be more in a sales-like role where I was on a commission-based structure. I was at Christopher Newport University working in athletics, and I had this great opportunity to consult with Lionsbridge FC. That was 7, 8 years ago now at this point. So when we first started, the team, I say we, it was Mike, the owner, and the other owner, Kevin. They brought me in as the first employee. We didn't even have a name. We were Spreadsheet FC. So I kind of did it during the summers just to keep myself busy when there wasn't college athletic events going on. And I just really started to enjoy it, was able to be really creative in that role with Lionsbridge FC. And it did lead to like a paid opportunity with them. Initially, it wasn't super paid. And then slowly it started to turn into a paid opportunity where I had a staff underneath me and all that good stuff. As personal stuff happens, I have a 2-year-old son, so I had to kind of take a step back during the summers and wanted to enjoy more time with them. But yeah, that was a great experience for me early on in my career.
So, what were you wanting to do whenever you started working for all these companies, started your own companies? Were you going in more into the sports because you had a sports background and you were an athlete, or were you trying to focus more on the marketing? What focused you initially?
It's a great question. I feel like I'm not in my 20s anymore. Still fresh out of my 20s though. But I feel like your 20s is kind of figuring out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I think we kind of put too much pressure on ourselves as young professionals. We do this right after college. We have to do this. I think that's nowadays I feel like that's the exception and not the rule. And for me, I definitely maybe a little envious of my friends that have been in the same career since they graduated college. But for me, it wasn't the correct path. So my path, I did start in college athletics. I was a college baseball player. So I wanted to work in sports. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, honestly. Kind of found my way. Oh, you still have me, Lauren?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, my computer's being funky. But so I started in college athletics. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I felt like I wanted to be a college athletic director, got my master's, was really going down that track for about 4 or 5 years. Worked at Old Dominion University in their athletic department, worked at Christopher Newport University, consulted with a semi-professional soccer team, Lionsbridge. But then pandemic hit and it kind of made me rethink. That was, 5 years ago. And it made me rethink what I want to do when I grow up. And I
Yeah.
feel like I had that conversation with myself maybe a little later in life, like in my mid to late 20s. But I knew that I wanted to be in a role where I was helping people. Ideally, I would like to be selling and be on a commission and really leveraging my connections to, not only help people, but make more money for me and my family. So got into a couple sales roles, found myself during the pandemic going back into sports in the nonprofit world and really enjoyed my time with Special Olympics. But after having my son, I realized I wanted to be on a commission again and really just, earn, earn every money that or earn every piece of revenue and money that I can get. So nonprofit world was great. Sports world was great. But now what I do with Slow Pro Roofing is awesome. I'm able to, I feel like, leverage the connections I earned and garnered during my 20s. And I'm really able to utilize them now in my current role.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Your family trying to support, that's got to be a huge determining factor of what direction you went. But there's got to be, just based on knowing you and our conversations, you definitely have that entrepreneurship spark of wanting to do a little bit more, which I guess makes sense with why you gravitated towards business development and commission-based role. So at what point did you start your businesses? Because I know you have multiple. Where did that fall into place here?
That kind of, I feel like, during the pandemic, it was really out of necessity. Me and my business partner, Sean, we created a company called Eat Local 757. And the idea was to drive business to these local restaurants that were kind of hurting during the pandemic. So we did really well. The idea was like we would set them up with a website, online ordering platform, delivery, and pickup. All essentially no startup costs for the company. We make a little bit of money on every single order, and that's good enough for us. So it's really like a volume-based company. But we did it with the goal to make it as easy as possible for our clients to join us. So that was kind of my first delve into entrepreneurship, and that went really well. Did some video stuff on the side, did stuff with technology. So I feel like with Eat Local, it was blending all of my like tech background, marketing background, and then salesmanship too. So me and my business partner, we've been doing that for 5-6 years. We have a good niche with local, I would say like ethnic restaurants, Mexican, Chinese, places like that. So that's been great. And really something interesting, it's funny because I never saw myself working in any type of like restaurant industry in that capacity. I never saw myself working in commercial construction. I always thought I was going to be sports, but I feel like it boils back to my first point I made is like, the world's my oyster. I spent my 20s figuring out what I want to do. And I think I started taking myself like less seriously in a way, like as long as I'm helping people and able to make money and feed my family and have an opportunity to grow within a company, then that's good enough for me. So that's kind of what I have right now. I think I might have mentioned to you, Lauren, I got recently promoted. So I'm overseeing our commercial department with Slow Pro Roofing, which has been awesome. So, an industry I never saw myself being in. And now I feel like I'm starting to find my footing within commercial construction.
And so you're still doing your Eat 757 on the side as well.
Yeah, I would say it's fairly passive income. We do service our clients, but really it's very passive at this point. Once we get them set up with a tablet, it's super turnkey, and they're able to basically start up. It sends all their orders to, I guess their software, whatever they use, their ordering software, and it kind of goes from there. So it's been a well-oiled machine. It's been really fun.
So it sounds like you had a direction that you thought that you were going to go, which I feel like most people, when you hear their story and you talk to them, they had this direction. Mine was exercise and sports science. I thought it was going to go into that personal training PT route. Never did. But I thought that that's where I was going to go. And you hear that time and time again with people. And there's typically some kind of shift where you decided, and it seems like for you, you had your son and you decided, okay, that I need to prioritize these things. So you said during COVID, you kind of did some soul searching. How did you come to the realization that, obviously money, we know that that's a big one, why people make shifts, but how did you come to a realization that you wanted to help people, or how did you find that why that drives you to do what you do?
That's a great question. I think for me, I kind of had that aha moment. When I was in college athletics, I felt like I was on my own little island out there. And I felt like there was a lot more opportunity, especially in the Hampton Roads and Virginia business community as a whole. I felt like there was a lot more opportunity than what I was tapping into. During that time, 6-7 years ago, I got really into networking and kind of casting a wide net, which is what I did initially. And it's bode very well for me in my business career down the road. But once I saw kind of what everybody else was doing, I was like, man, I think I could do something a little different, a little bit outside my realm, something I've never thought of before. Because those first five years of my 20s, outside of college, I was, dead set on college athletics. But I think there's a lot of burnout in a career like that where you're working a lot of hours and the pay may not be great. So I think it had something to do with that. But I think it also had something to do with, as I was networking, I was like, oh, that's a cool career. I could see myself doing that. And then I think, going back to what I said about not taking myself too seriously, it's like, we kind of, I felt like maybe 20 years ago, like bouncing around would have been considered a bad thing. And
Yeah.
maybe employers do still look at that as a bad thing. But for me, I feel like I gained experience every single step of the way. And I don't have any regrets with how my career has kind of shaped.
What do you mean by you stop taking yourself seriously?
I think like maybe that's a bad way to put it. It's like putting pressure on yourself, right? Like I
Mm.
felt like I had to have everything in my 20s, and like I'm not a very patient person, so I felt like I didn't need to, maybe bide my time or climb the ladder as slowly as I wanted to. So I think it's kind of that's more so what I mean is I took the pressure off myself. It's like you don't have to have everything figured out in your 20s or even in your 30s. It's like
Mhm.
as long as for me, I just wanted to continue to grow and develop as a person and as an employee too. And I feel like that's what I did in my 20s. I gained a lot of experiences, and now I use a ton of them for my current roles and ventures.
Yeah, you make it sound so easy when you said, "Oh, I just took the pressure off of myself," just kinda like removing a blanket. It's like, and it was gone. But I feel
I
like
definitely took a lot of like soul searching, like you said. I mean, I didn't come to that conclusion that easy, but now looking back, it felt like everything at the time. But now looking back, like it's really not that big of a deal.
was it just like what kind of methods did you use? I really wanna dive into that because I know
Yeah.
that even in 40s, 50s, all entrepreneurs have that overachieving mindset. Majority of them, I would say, have that overachieving mindset where it's never enough, and then they achieve what they set out to achieve, and then they still need more, and they lose sight. I'm so guilty of it. Lose sight of everything that you've accomplished because you keep raising the bar higher. So, give me some examples of how you started to make that work for you.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it was I feel like failing upward is such a, everybody says it, but I really do feel like I've been kind of failing upward every step of the way. I mean, in a role like sales, I kind of equate it back to baseball. Like baseball is a game of failure. If you go
Mhm.
1 for 3, have one hit every 3 at bats, and that's considered a success. And I feel like business and sales, especially, is the same way. Like you're not going to hit home runs every client you get, but you are going to learn something from every single one. So I feel like that's been, I've kind of the last 5 years, especially when I really got into sales, was I embraced failure, and I feel like early on in my career, I would internalize everything. Like I used to get so upset if
Mhm.
somebody said something to me the wrong way that I didn't appreciate or something like that. And nowadays, it's like I just have that rough skin to where, even hard losses don't feel that hard anymore. And I feel like on the flip side, even those big wins, it's just business at the end of the day. Just keep
Mhm.
trucking along, look for the next one after that. So that's kind of how I stay motivated now. I feel like is failing upward. I guess to answer your question in
Yeah.
a long-winded way.
Yeah, so essentially not overreacting or underreacting to situations, just trying to stay as neutral as possible can really help to pull that emotion out of it, I guess.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think that yeah, just learning from your failures is got to be the biggest thing, right? And learning from different companies I've worked with. There's been a lot of things that I've liked from different companies, but there's been a lot of things that I don't like, and things that personally I just don't agree with. So for
Mhm.
me, it's kind of in seeing that I feel like I'm allowed, especially in my current roles, I'm allowed to be exactly who I want to be, my authentic self. So I feel like I can be as genuine as possible, which in sales comes off very strongly too.
Yeah, it's almost a benefit too. I talk about this, it seems like at every single live show we do, but it's becoming more and more of a trend. Is just being so authentic right now in a world where we're starting to get to the place where we can easily mimic somebody else's voice as long as they've got some content out on the internet. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to you can still tell subtle differences, but to just copy an exact person and have them say something, so that authentic self that you said, it sounds cheesy, but it's so important in any kind of business, I guess, not just for other people what they're seeing, but for yourself and just staying genuine to yourself, I guess. And
Yeah, it's definitely the popular thing I think right now, which is great. Like nobody wants to not be themselves for 8 hours a day. But for
mm,
me, I think it has to do with surrounding yourself with good people too, high integrity people. So the company I work for now, it's basically five of us all in our 30s running a roofing company. I feel like the guys I work with, all very high level character. We do the right thing every single time, and I feel like that's really important to be a part of. And also like I know we met through Thrive, which is the young professionals organization within the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. Being around people like that, kind of just getting started in their career, I feel like helped kind of shape me and mold me as a person in my business career, who I wanted to be. I kind of heard over the years, you hear about people being talked about in a negative light, and I never wanted to be that person. I always wanted to be like, oh, Austin, yeah, he's a really nice guy, he's super helpful. That's what I want to be. So.
yeah. How you are a big mentor. I know that because during the political season, I saw just different conversations that we had of you expressing the desire to just mentor people that are interested in that. And it's not just that. I know that you have experience with fostering and all that kind of stuff. So I know that Austin Gregory is a mentor. If a young professional came up to you and just expressed concerns of, I'm not really, and maybe not a young professional, maybe somebody that's again in their 40s, 50s, 60s, that's still wanting to work, they still have that desire to work, but they're just not fulfilled. That's something that I think happens pretty regularly, especially since the majority of people were just kind of taught you have to stay in one career to be successful. And now that narrative has changed. So how would you go about mentoring somebody to find what they are passionate about or something that they can be fulfilled in with their work?
That's such a good question. Because I feel like it's a question I ask myself all the time in my 20s. And I feel like you almost take a step back from the industry. Like you don't necessarily focus on the industry. And I looked at more so like what makes me happy as a person. And first and foremost, it's helping other people. I truly enjoy helping people. But also after that, I enjoy connecting people. Like I feel like, at my core, I'm a connector. I was telling someone the other day, I get more satisfaction by making a good connection than winning a big deal. And it's a very genuine, like I know myself and I know the feelings I get when those two things happen. So for me, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in a role where I was helping people. I was able to connect others and be a resource, but then also I'm able to leverage my network and make money because, at the end of the day, we all, we can be as altruistic as we want, but we still need to make money as individuals. So if I was talking to a young person, I would probably ask them that, what motivates you? I'd be curious what a young person does in their free time outside of work. Are you interested in working with a nonprofit? Do you want to work with a company that may have that type of focus? Are you interested in being creative? Does that motivate you? Does talking to people motivate you? Does getting energy from other people? Is that something you're interested in? So I think that would be the main thing, and you see how I haven't mentioned a single industry in all of this because at the end of the day, I feel like you can find happiness in a lot of different industries, but you need to know that what makes you like truly happy as a person is not going to be working in banking or finances or construction. It's going to be what are you doing on a day-to-day basis and what are those activities and does that bring you joy?
So it's not necessarily the job itself, but the different things that you're doing within the job that you're saying would be more than likely what's going to fulfill somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like with Slow Pro, we have franchisees. So that's another thing. A lot of people we work with, that we've interviewed with or talked with, they come from corporate America and they've kind of done that song and dance for 20, 30 years, and they're looking for their next venture. They want some ownership in what they do, which I think, being a business owner yourself, you can certainly understand that, right? It's nice to kind of work for yourself. And if you can hold yourself accountable, you can have a lot of really good success. So I think that's another question you need to ask. Are you willing to do corporate America, or would you like to be within a small business, or would you like to do your own thing, which are all very viable options and not as scary as I think people make it out to be sometimes.
There are struggles and challenges with everything. For example, I mean, we've in our company and what I do, I've got challenges on the daily trying to figure out how to be innovative, how to continue to manage the team, how to get more customers, how acquisitions, like there's so many different challenges within this realm that are huge stressors. And I think that it's the same for anybody. If you're in business development, your challenges are meeting the right people. How are you funneling them in? It just, no matter what you do, there are going to be challenges. So, how would you approach those challenges? Because for just kind of speaking from experience, right? I'm very fulfilled by what I do because I get to work for myself and I get to have influence in different worlds, and that really fulfills me. But on the other side of that, there are so many different things that are just astronomical stressors, and it's really, it can start to weigh on a person. And I know that there's also people out there that are like, yeah, I get that, and they debate all the time, like, should I pivot, should I move? So how do you approach just kind of staying calm? You're a calm dude, so how are you staying calm and just taking those challenges and be like, you know what, we're gonna let that go?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's funny in baseball. I was always I was the closer in college, so like I would come in when the game was on the line and you close out the game. All 4 years is that's what I did. And I don't know. I feel like taking a deep breath is a very underrated thing to do. And like we say at the shop all the time, like at least nobody died at the end of the day. So I feel like
Yeah.
it's just, you take a deep breath and like, yeah, like challenges and hiccups are going to happen, but the cool thing about challenges is that they can become opportunities so quickly. I know if we have maybe a client who felt like they weren't served appropriately, even if it isn't our fault, that gives us an opportunity to provide some excellent customer service, go above and beyond and do the right thing, because at the end of the day, like, that is the right thing to do, but we will receive business from that service that customer received. So we kind of talk about it all the time in the shop, that challenges and hiccups are just another way to have an opportunity in front
Mhm.
of us too, and another way to succeed, I guess, and win.
Are you a visual person? Do you write things down? Like, how do you learn?
It's a great question. I probably should write more things down. uh,
I can still hear you if you're
okay,
concerned.
cool. I was gonna say no. I just popped off for a second. It's a good question. I do write things down. I feel like, one thing I could definitely do more of is writing down my goals. I actually pitched our ownership. I was like, I think we need to write our goals down more. I found a study that like 40% of 40% of goal, you have a 40% higher chance of reaching a goal if you write it down. So that's one thing I want to start doing more of. But as far as the way I like to do things, I am definitely like a creative visual type of person. So like writing things down or typing things up doesn't do it for me most of the time. I need to have like everything in front of me and be able to be creative with it. So I
Why?
actually, here's a great point. So like if I'm networking with somebody, almost always I am not bringing a pen and a paper with me. I want to look them in the eye and I want to have that real type of conversation.
Mhm,
So I feel like that scenario kind of answers the question that like sometimes writing things down can distract me. So I would just much rather have that verbal conversation.
mhm, mhm. Did you you said you found a study that repeat that, 40% of you're
Yeah,
more likely to teach?
don't fact check me on it, but I think it's something around like 42% maybe. You're 42% more likely to reach a goal if you write it down.
Why?
I think it's just the power of having that goal in front of you.
Mhm,
A lot of people that do like vision boarding in the morning and things like that, like that's what they do. They journal in the morning. They write down their goals every single day. So I would be so curious about what the science is behind it, but it probably
mhm.
just helps you keep you on track. Like I feel like a society as a whole, we're a little bit more have a little bit more attention deficit this disorder than maybe we ever have. So I think
Yeah.
writing these down maybe helps us keep focused and on track for the bigger goal at hand instead of, going out here, going out here, going out there.
And when you're talking goals, are we talking like just your personal goals? Are we talking your business goals? Like what type of, for I guess for your company you pitch, so it would be their business goals, not necessarily we want to do X, Y, and Z as a company. We like what are you writing down?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that you write down that goal, like, we want to generate X amount of revenue this year. So we've been growing it. We've doubled our revenue each year as a company since I've been here. So this is my third year with the company, or almost done with year two. But we So basically, I think in the power in writing down our goals, which is something we've done, we can have that end goal in sight, but we can figure out everything in between now because we have that number in sight. So, okay, how are we going to reach this revenue goal? We're going to do it through this vertical and we're going to do it through this vertical and we're going to stick with that. If it doesn't work, then we'll rethink it next year. But I really feel like that's the power in goal setting is it allows you to kind of figure out a game plan how to get there.
And how long have you guys been writing your stuff down, your goals down?
Like within the last couple months.
No way.
Yeah.
What changes have you noticed since doing that on the team?
Yeah, I think it's just for me personally, it keeps me on track. I know
Mhm.
it allows me to have like an infant company. We don't have KPIs, key performance indicators, or anything like that. So for me, it allows me to give myself my own KPIs and something to chase.
Yeah. What have you seen it benefit any of the other team members in any way?
I think so. I think we're really starting to like clean up a lot of our systems and processes too, based off of that, based off goal setting.
Interesting. So, why do you think that is? You set a goal of we're trying to achieve this many sales, this many deals, and then you've written this down. At what point did people start to look at your processes from that goal?
I think I think it's just one of those things that kind of keeps us centered because instead of,
Mhm.
it can be very appealing, like in a young business to want to implement new systems and processes instead of kind of staying the course. Because in an infant business, we're fortunate that we're able to get a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah.
But that can lead to, one person's doing this thing over here, one person's doing this thing over here. Instead of working as a team, we're kind of working within our own bubbles, still towards the common goal. But I think it allows us for more cohesion more than anything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The reason I'm asking all of these questions is because one of my favorite sayings, I heard it from one of my friends here at my office, and I'll never forget it. We were on a walk, and he was telling me, Lauren, every business is held together by some duct tape, bubble gum, and some stickers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the funniest thing that I've ever heard. And you would think from the outside looking in, depending on what your role is within what company or who you've worked for in the past and all of that, you would think that the persona that people portray, the persona that executives and companies portray, especially publicly, makes it seem like everybody's got their stuff together. Always. If you're doing your marketing right, 100%. And so one of the big goals of this live that I have is to really kind of peel back those onion layers and show not everything is as it seems. Every business is going to have its struggles. Every person has their struggles. And whenever it looks like it's all polished and pretty, it's not always polished and pretty. So
Totally. Yeah, totally.
that's why I'm asking all of this, because there's a lot of companies out there that are probably listening like, "Oh, shit, we haven't written down our goals in forever. How could that help our processes?" So if just for some context, that's why I'm really trying to dive into this
Yeah,
because
totally.
you never
Yeah.
know what you can learn, from talking
Yeah,
to different people.
absolutely. And we say all the time, we're still building this plane as we fly it. I feel like with
Mhm.
us, our roofers are excellent. Like with the roofing stuff, like we are very, very good. Not to say we're not immune to mistakes, but if we do make mistakes, we make it right at the end of the day. But when it comes to like growing a business, like that's a unique challenge for a lot of guys within our company. We're a lot of our company is roofers first, and business
Mhm.
people second. So that's something we're trying to figure out, and that's where I feel like I've been able to come into the company and kind of apply some of those white collar ideas to what is a blue collar type of company. So it's been really fun to be a part of. But yeah, building this plane as we fly it is something we say all the time in the shop. So I think with that, we give ourselves a lot of grace too. We
Mhm.
understand that in growing, we're going to make mistakes, and we need to allow our guys to have the ability to make mistakes and the freedom too. And not like if you make a mistake, you're getting fired or anything like that. It's if you make a mistake, you're learning something from it and you're applying it to the next situation. And another thing I think we do in a good job in our office is we have zero ego. So we're always willing and open to take constructive criticism and advice and things like that and apply it to our business because we know that people have been doing this for a lot longer than we have. There's no reason we can't learn from other people. So I think that's like a huge thing. And not only in this business, but I feel like in your 20s and as you're a young professional, it's not having an ego and being willing to take advice and criticism, or at least hear it out. You don't always have to use it. Like I tell my dad all the time, my dad's my best friend and he gives me advice all the time. And I always tell him I'm very open to his advice, but I won't always use it. So, and we've kind of come to that conclusion together.
That's funny. How are you teaching a whole team of people to check your ego at the door, because that is so challenging for people to really live that out. It's one thing to be like, yeah, I check my ego, whatever. But how are you guys actively working on having the team implement that?
I think it starts from when our owner started this company 4 or 5 years ago, and John Rawson and Nichols. And so when they started the company, they have the same mindset. You know, they didn't want to have any ego when they built this company, and I feel like that is like one of our core principles since the company has began. And anybody that has came and lasted with the company, they truly buy into that. But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, trying to get guys in their 30s, you know, have a lot of testosterone in a blue collar field.
Yeah.
It's check the ego at the door sometimes, but I will say it's something that we never have to deal with, because if somebody's coming in and they're lasting, they will keep their ego at the door. And I think it also stems from our leadership too. Like everybody here is willing to listen to see how they can improve upon their process.
Are you guys doing like team development type activities?
Yeah, we do occasionally. And then just like, you know, some good team building get-togethers, cabin weekends, we go kart racing, axe
Nice.
throwing, you know, fun guy stuff like that. So yeah, we'll
Yeah.
definitely do some of that. I think we could probably do a little bit more now that we're growing. So we want to make sure we're doing that correctly. So as we grow, I feel like all of us kind of garner a little bit more responsibility. And then as we continue to grow, we'll be able to backfill that responsibility with new employees and things like that. So
Yeah. So, do you guys have, because it seems like you have a bunch of core philosophies and core things that really help you to operate this business well? And you mentioned earlier how writing down your goals has allowed you guys to improve your systems and processes and everything. So, are you now starting a trend where you're going to start writing everything down as far as your core goals or your mission? Do you guys have that from the beginning written down, or how do people know, other than when you interview and get hired with you guys, this is check your ego at the door, do these things? How do people routinely remember that?
yeah, I think we totally set the tone, and I think it's you know, we continue to set the tone throughout our work days too.
Mhm.
So it's I think it's really important to practice what you preach to, right? You know, if we're
Yeah.
saying all this and we're not doing it, then it means nothing. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things we don't even necessarily need to write down, because it is so ingrained in our culture right now. If somebody comes in and is not willing to abide by that, then they're probably not going to last with our company. So, which is a really strong thing. But yeah, you know, now that you mention it, though, it would be nice to have those things around the office and the shop and bolstered everywhere, just so everybody knows, and then our customers know what type of company we are too.
Yeah. And then, when you start doing that, you do start getting in the territory of then everybody, all the businesses show that, oh, here's our core missions, our cool core philosophies. And then for a lot of times it's BS. And you can hear
Right.
employees talk about it like, oh, we have this in our handbook, but nobody actually acts like this. So I like that you said it really is kind of a leadership down approach. If you can get your leaders in check to really live that out, then it can radiate onto the rest of the team. But as long as the leaders aren't in check, then you're going to have sentiment like that, which I'm sure everybody has heard many times or experienced of, my company says this one thing, but they do not live it out.
Totally. Yeah. And it's like never be bigger than the mission. Like none of us are like, we're all willing to lift, you know, things and do the dirty work that we need to and help out. Like if some of our guys are struggling, you know, downstairs moving stuff into a trailer or something like that, like we're going to be there and helping them out. It's just like the way things go. And that includes me and our CEO and president and whatnot. So yeah.
I love that. I think that is so, so wise. I think it's wise because I try and live that out, but no. I truly think that's such a wise thing, because I've always said that I don't expect anybody to do a job that I haven't at least attempted to do myself, because to me, maybe that makes me an inefficient leader. And I'm sure there's a time where that tune might change a little bit, but I still have that philosophy that, as you said, you can't be bigger than the mission. And I think that's so important. And I think that there's a lot of people that do get a big ego, and you start to get that ego and then you start to lose employees, or you start to have a worse quality of people that are working with you because they see that. So
Yep.
that is
Exactly.
so important, but very hard to tell people that are already set in their ways on that. So, but that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen those like Instagram or TikTok reels of the people that interview random entrepreneurs on the street and be like, "How'd you make your money?" and things like that. What's one piece
Yeah.
of advice you would give to the next generation? And there was one the other day where he talks about that. He talks about not being afraid to do the little work even as a CEO. But he also talks about, I thought this was really interesting advice, kind of off topic, but he says when I was getting started, I made sure I aligned myself with whoever my boss was, whoever the higher up was. And at the end of the day, when all my work was done, I asked what they needed to be done because that made me, a very valuable employee because I was willing to do whatever it takes to, rise to the top, but also help the mission. He was like, sometimes they would give me stuff, sometimes they wouldn't. But at the end of the day, they knew they could rely on me and I could be their right hand man. And he was like, that's how I climbed the ladder to be the CEO of whatever Fortune company. So it's kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you listening to a lot of different podcasts or media to help with business, or how are you staying current and just getting insights on things?
A little bit, yeah. I try and be well read. I listen to a lot of audiobooks more than anything about business, entrepreneurship, same things like that. I feel like for me, my favorite medium lately is like biographies, just about people that have done it. And like Richard Branson, for example, I'm reading his biography right now or listening to it. And you can get a lot from a guy like that has created like a conglomerate of different businesses. Elon Musk's another biography I've read recently. So there's a lot of good biographies out there, people that I feel like it's always motivational to see somebody else's story and see how other people have struggled. Phil Knight, founder of Nike, he's got a great biography too, Shoe Dog. And it's wild how close, like you said, businesses are held together by like thread basically. And I
Mhm.
feel like Nike was one of those, like they were so close to failing. Same with SpaceX and Tesla, like all those companies were so close to failing and they had that one moment where it really turned around their business. So it's kind of a good, entrepreneurship can be hard, like, and daunting sometimes, but I feel like reading other people that have succeeded is nothing but motivating at the end of the day, but you can totally pick up some good tidbits too.
Wow. So is that because I was going to ask you what's a common theme that you've noticed between all of those? So it's that point of failure, or are there other common trends that you've noticed through reading those autobiographies?
Yeah, it's totally you're spot on, I think. Now that I haven't really thought about that common ground, but a lot of companies have been at the brink of failure. Like
Mhm.
they needed one big contract to come through and it ends up coming through or something happens that makes it come through. And I always wonder in those moments, would there have been another moment or is that truly the last moment? But I think like the message in that is just to keep going. If you have
Mhm.
conviction for something, which obviously Phil Knight, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, they all had conviction. They kept going at the end of the day, which I think that's like the most admirable thing. I think an entrepreneur can keep doing is to keep going. A lot of people don't make it until they're in their 30s, some even in their 40s and 50s, and they still have a chance to make it. So it's never too late.
Well, I think we're coming full circle back with that comment of having conviction because it routes back to finding your why. You mentioned that you really did some soul searching during COVID to really figure out what drove you, and then not excluding the money topic, but it was helping people. And so, if you can really root yourself in that for you, it's helping people, then you're going to be fulfilled by your work. And then, when things get really tough, and if there is a moment where you're on the brink of failure, that thing that's fulfilling you, as long as you're continuing to do it, can help you to persevere through all of that.
Totally. Yeah, definitely.
Did they all mention in those biographies their purpose or the things that they were chasing after with their companies when they started them?
Oh, it's a great question. I think everybody's different, and that's
Mhm.
that's a really good question because motivation is so important. What motivates somebody? I think like just with those three as an example, I feel like Richard Branson doesn't talk about his motivations a whole lot in that book. But Elon Musk, he's got plenty of motivations, but his biggest motivation is to continue to carry the human race forward. I feel like, and that's kind of what his companies all do.
Mhm.
That's kind of how I see it, how I see his motivations. Like you think about, SpaceX and even OpenAI and like some other things. Like he started PayPal. A lot of people don't realize that. Like he's
Mhm.
done a lot of really cool technology. Tesla, obviously, Starlink, which is really cool too. So that's his goal is to carry the human race forward, and he's going to do it. He's going to figure out a way to do it no matter what, which is really admirable. Even though he's kind of a divisive character, I guess these days. And then another one with Phil Knight, he was I believe he was a track coach. He was a track athlete, and he realized the shoes were terrible. So he literally created the first Nike shoes with with a waffle maker, if I'm not mistaken. And that's how he made the tread with Nike shoes.
No way.
Yeah, I feel like he was motivated by creating a good product for track athletes, and that's how it started. And then it led into all sorts of other different things. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, everybody's got different motivations probably. And what motivates them to want to do well in business and different careers and things like that. What motivates you, Lauren?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Initially, I've talked about this before. It initially was money. That was my primary driver, and you know him, Arnell, actually really kind of challenged that. If you're not local, Arnell is a local business coach in the area. But I was challenged on that idea. Is it really just money? Like, what is it? And so I started to do some soul searching. I would say I still need to do some, but I'm a very pen and paper type of person. So I need to like journal all of this to figure it out. Just haven't done it. But I would say more influence. I think that is a big one for me. Anytime I go and I speak publicly and I can help somebody, it fulfills that like influence itch for me, but I know that it's been helpful. So it's kind of twofold. It has to be influence enough to be helpful to somebody, which I guess all people that do have influence are helpful to some capacity. So I think that's really where I'm at. It sounds really selfish and conceited, but that is my why. And so I don't know. We'll see.
I think it's super honest. And I think to your point, influencing, like you can become a thought leader, and that can lead to more money. Secret at all, just like helping people, doing the right thing, providing a good service can lead to more money at the end of the day. But yeah, you're totally right. Finding something, I don't want to say like more altruistic, but finding something more like soul fulfilling as opposed to money, I feel like is the way to go.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to pull this up real quick because I think that this is so important for people to see that there's a lot of different factors that can motivate you. I mean, we've got at least 15 right here. But I think one that also stood out when I was just kind of taking a glance at this is curiosity. That's one that I actually haven't really thought of until just kind of looking through this. But curiosity, I would say, is a big one for me because I get to learn about all different people from all walks of life and all different industries and just learn. And so I would say that's a big one for me. But it's very interesting how many there are.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm kind of applying it to our own industry. So one thing we're doing is we're building out crews within our company that have the opportunity to climb the ladder. So I see like job advancement opportunities on the right panel, third one up. And I feel like that's something really important for any young employee to a new organization. Is I feel like more, there are some people that are absolutely happy with being stagnant, and like those employees are very, very important to help a company run and to fuel the engine. But for those companies that do have aspirations, I feel like that's something very important to talk about with them in the interview process. It's like, hey, are you comfortable being a laborer, or could you see yourself being a project manager? And if you do want to be a project manager, here's what we can do and put in place to make sure you can get to that point. No questions asked. If you do all these things, you will become a project manager. That's something we talk about as we're developing our workforce within our company too.
I like that you said that there are some people that are really comfortable being in one spot. I don't, I think that when you're talking to entrepreneurs, it's something that we just have a hard time understanding how that is even possible. But I think it all routes back to that motivation conversation. Is people are fulfilled by their thing. And if they are fulfilled by their thing, their job is fulfilling it. They have no need to constantly chase after more. So maybe those people got something right there that I'd like to take from them. That's awesome.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll close. I like that curiosity one. That's really going to stick with me. I think I'm going to have to dive into that a little bit more after this show.
Yeah, that resonates with me too. I feel like I'm just naturally a curious person. Like I'm great for trivia nights, but a lot of useless knowledge in there. But I feel like it ties into kind of what I'm doing now with roofing. Like, for example,
Mhm.
there is a science behind roofing, and it's something that's changing all the time. There's new products that come out every single year. So that's something really fun to be a part of. But then also like having a natural curiosity within business and growing a company from $1 million to $5 million, $5 million to $10 million. I feel like it's completely different every step of the way. So yeah.
What did you guys change to see that significant amount of growth in such a short amount of time?
I think I think it's two things. I think it's like in contractors in general are kind of I don't want to say a dying breed, but it's something like not a lot of people are raising their hand to be a contractor nowadays. I
Mhm.
kind of feel like that's going to change in the next 10 years. I think it's going to be a more
Yes.
sought after career. I think our generation, Lauren, was like, we were told we need to go to college.
Yep.
We need to get that 4 year degree.
Yep.
Nowadays, it's like there's so many other paths, right?
Mhm.
To be successful. So I think one, a lot of these older contractors and roofers have either retired or sold their business to private equity, whatever it may be. So I think we came in at a really good time in the market. And then I think the second thing is just customer service, doing the right thing, providing a good product. If you Google Slow Pro Roofing, you'll see nothing but 5-star reviews.
Mhm.
It's not that we haven't, had mess ups or screw ups, but we've made it right every single time, and I think that's really really important. And I think that's been the reason for the hefty growth. And the company started out just doing residential roofing, and we've delved into the commercial market. Had a lot of really good luck and opportunities there. So it's kind of like we've just grown in different segments along the way. So it's been a very steady growth, but also kind of chaotic at times in a
Yeah.
way. So yeah, but we figured like growth, it's the best way to implement change. When you're growing, you have to change, or else you won't survive.
Absolutely. And people, I think that that's something that you would think that people would know. You would think that you have to continue to grow, but I see people be so resistant to change. And I think that that's one of the great things that young people bring to the table when they're entering legacy industries is they could bring here's the new stuff that's going on. We have to move. We have to go forward with this. If we don't, it's just going to die out with the rest of the stuff that doesn't move forward. But it's so it sounds really kind of messed up, but it is absolutely 100% true because we are in a time of just complete uncertainty of just what the future is going to look like. 10 years from now is going to be wildly different. What that looks like, I don't think anybody really knows, but this technology, if you are keeping up with it, is so impressive on all of the things that it can do. And once we start implementing chips and all that kind of stuff, at what point are you able to distinguish reality from virtual? And
Totally.
so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to change the landscape of business as I think everybody knows it, which is insane.
Yeah. And I think, as a dad, like my son's 2 years old, he was born in a world that has only ever known AI, which is
Oh
crazy.
my gosh.
And so I think about
Wow.
that all the time. But I also think from a business standpoint, if you're not using technology, you will be left behind
Mhm.
at the end of the day. And I think that's something we do really, really well within our company. Like we are always thinking of good tech ideas and implementing them too. So, for example, our latest one is on the residential roofing side. We created an online estimator, which they are out there, but they're not as dialed in as ours. They may give you a range, like your roof will be $10,000 to $15,000, but we give them an exact price that we can honor too. So if it's
No way.
$572, then we will honor that price. And along with that, we can set them up with financing. We do all of that digitally. So the homeowner doesn't have to call 3 different roofers, have them come out, schedule that time. So a lot of people do want to be sold that way, which we absolutely appreciate and respect. But a lot of people don't want to have to deal with a salesperson in their home for a couple of hours, and especially multiple ones. So we just launched that actually like within the last couple of weeks. And it's
Wow.
incredibly accurate. I did it on my home and it was like down to the dollar. It was that accurate because I just did my roof. But yeah, so it's been kind of fun to dive into the technology realm. On the commercial side, we started using an estimating software. So
Mhm.
when you're estimating a commercial roof replacement, historically, it can take, 20 hours, 30 hours sometimes, depending on just for one estimate that you may or may not get. And our estimating software has cut it down to like 20 minutes, which is unbelievable. So it's like so
Whoa.
much less math that we don't have to worry about. And now with that, we're trying to figure out how we want to leverage AI and use AI in our business too, moving forward. So it's kind of sad in a way, because I feel like we do get a little bit more disconnected from the customer, but those customers that don't want to be bothered, we are a great fit for. But we can also do both. So that's been really fun to be a part of.
Well, I think it plays in for you guys. You're going to immediately ROI with something like that because it's time investment on the individual to go out and do that estimate, and you might not even close the deal. So it cuts your costs down. And then from the consumer's perspective, is people are so conditioned for that instant gratification now, and whether people realize it or not, it doesn't matter the age. We've all, if you are on the internet, that instant gratification and your load speed on how quick something's going to load is it has just conditioned us to want things now. So I think that's really beneficial for the consumers that you're selling to because they can get that. And then if they want to go spend the time with a salesperson, that's great. But then they have what you're going to provide to them right there and they don't even have to talk to somebody.
Yeah, totally. And the idea came from our owner. He reads a lot of good books too, and
Yeah.
he read a book called Blue Ocean Theory, where it's the whole premise of the book is kind of like if you really want to be like a huge company, like an Amazon. It talks about Amazon a lot. Amazon did something completely game changing with books, in the late 90s and early 2000s with the internet and books. They conditioned people to buy books a different way and then other products a different way. And then they changed kind of the whole culture of how we buy things in America. And that's kind of what the book is based off of. Like everybody kind of lives in the blue ocean, that's where everybody is. But if you want to do something different, you have to be truly groundbreaking. So we kind of thought about that as a company. How can we be truly groundbreaking? And this is what we came to a conclusion for, making it even easier for a customer to get an estimate. Now they don't have to deal with, all these different salespeople. They can just go in, plug in some information, and it'll spit it right out to them. If they want to schedule it, they can do it right there and we'll be good to go. So it's kind of like Amazon was huge with convenience. Instead of driving to a bookstore, you can just order it online. You have a full bookstore right in front of you, every book you could ever want. And that's kind of the same thoughts that we had, instead of spending all this time getting an estimate, now you can just plug it into our online estimator and it'll spit it out for you. So at the end of the day, time is like our most valuable asset. So for us, we're like, how can we eliminate the time factor with all this stuff too?
Absolutely. So I call those CEO days. I don't know what other people call them, but it's
Yeah.
my CEO day. And ideally I would spend a week out of a month just having a CEO week, which is not entirely feasible. But in those times, I really just try and channel, okay, what is innovative, what is different, what is something new that I can implement, and really just try and build upon those ideas. Because as we discussed earlier, it's one of those things, if you're not adapting and you're not changing, you're just going to fall behind and not really move forward. So how often are you guys having CEO days? Are you doing something to this effect to really just not work, but to really just think about big picture, how can we propel this ship forward?
Yeah, I feel like we have our own CEO days. It's a great word for it. I feel like we have them organically, just randomly throughout the year. I felt like maybe last year we were having too many of those CEO days where we were doing too much visionary work and too much
Really?
about the future. And I feel like this year we did a good job of like, okay, these are the things we want to do. These are the things we want to implement. No more big changes the rest of the year. And that's kind of what we decided we were going to do because we really want to build our company with a great foundation. If we're building it, growing, we're not taking care of certain segments within our company, then it can be like a house of cards and it could topple. So we're very aware of that. Sometimes you can do too much visionary work, but that's kind of why my role was elevated to VP of commercial roofing, is so it could allow our owner to do more of that stuff because he's really, really good at that. And all of us kind of see that too. And we want him to do more of that because at the end of the day, he's going to be the one to grow the company with his vision. We're just going to be the ones that implement it for him.
That's such a special thing for you to be able to identify your strengths and your weaknesses. There's 5 of you, right?
5 of us. Yes. Yeah.
So all of you can identify this person is good at this thing, this person's good at this thing, and you guys can know at the leadership level, know what your strengths are and really just play on that. That's such a healthy dynamic to have in business because then not one person is pulling more weight than the other. You guys are all pulling your weights in different spots. So it's equal but different things. That's so incredible.
Yeah, and you'll appreciate this. We did all the personality assessments out there, DISC and things like that, Myers-Briggs. There's one called the 5 Voices that we did. And so the 5 voices are pioneer, connector, guardian, creative, and nurturer. And so our 5 core guys, all of us had a different personality within that assessment as like
No
our main
way.
goals, which completely organically, which I thought was really, really cool because it kind of taught us how to communicate better with each other's personality. But yeah, you're totally right. It's something we're very grateful for too, to be able to kind of see that. So yeah, within a growing company, we've heard enough to where companies that grow too fast can falter. So we're trying to avoid that and have steady growth and controlled growth mostly. Yeah.
Wow. Was that your favorite or the test that you guys found the most helpful? Was it that Five Voices one?
Yeah, we did it just with one of our buddies here in Richmond. So we did find it pretty helpful. We haven't really invested into monthly coaching yet. I think that'll probably be something that does come down the road. If not this year, then next year. Because I think it'll give us an opportunity to grow our own segments, like my commercial division versus our residential division, and also come together for the same thing. I think we could definitely benefit from something like that down the road. I think all companies could.
That's so interesting to be able I think that that's so important. Most people just aren't doing it. I don't know why. I think that's one of those things that it's like most people aren't investing in a business coach because they think, "Oh, I don't need it. I've done this all by myself. I don't need the help," which is fine. However, that's one thing that I'm a huge proponent of is those
Me too.
personality tests because you can figure out so much about one person, but if you don't have a clue of how somebody learns or how somebody receives criticism well or how they think, it's you aren't working with that person to the full potential that you could work with that individual.
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely helped us, like, with some of our with, our creative guy, we need to talk to him a little bit differently than we talk to our guardian
Mm,
who wants more numbers and things like that, and so it was really interesting to learn. We definitely apply it to this day, even though we did it last year, but yeah, as far as business coaches go, I definitely agree with that. I think that, I've hired a business coach for a couple of things, and, it was very beneficial. I don't think I would have got my desired outcome without a business coach in certain instances. So I think it's definitely
interesting.
wow. Yeah. And I think also mentorship is important too, which is so hard to find, like we talked about at the beginning. I feel like I had kind of some mentors along the way, maybe, but not one that I, reach out to on a consistent basis. So I think us as like young professionals starting to get to like maybe the mid level of our career, it's going to be important for us to offer those olive branches to young professionals and give them an opportunity to be mentored if they want it. If they ask, I think that all of us should consider saying yes.
That's so interesting. You said mentors are hard to find. I know there's plenty of resources. I actually interviewed Hunter Walsh last Monday,
Oh
and
yeah,
he
he's
was
awesome.
telling he is, and he was telling me about some of the resources for startups and entrepreneurships as far as the mentorship goes. But for people that not necessarily for a startup entrepreneurship, but do you have any resources that somebody that might be an executive leader that could go to find mentorship? Do you have anything in mind?
That's such a good question. I wish I had like a solid answer because I felt like in my entire 20s I was seeking mentorship and I never really got it to where I would have liked to. I feel like it's finding somebody it's being very intentional about it.
Mhm.
Finding even on LinkedIn, hey, I see your posts on LinkedIn. I'd love to just grab coffee with you and maybe pick your brain about a couple of things. And from there, you can be like, hey, would you be open to doing this once a month, just an hour out of your morning, just grabbing coffee, chopping it up a little bit. Finding somebody like that, could be on LinkedIn, could be within your company, maybe somebody that's a couple levels above you, maybe a job that you
Mhm.
want to have one day. I think it would be worth reaching out to them and seeing if they would be willing just to have an informal chat. Um, and yeah, I feel like some advice I've gotten in the past too about mentorship is asking people to be your mentor, being like very intentional about it, being like, hey, I don't know if you'd be open to this, but I'd love to, buy you coffee once a month and pick your brain on certain things. Like I'm looking for a mentor and somebody to help me along the way. But yeah, mentorship, it's hard to find. I feel like
And it's hard to ask for
it's very
too.
hard to ask for. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But even like, if you don't vouch for yourself or ask, it'll never happen. Kind of like with raises, job promotions, things like that. It might happen, but you're putting
Yeah.
a little bit more in your hands if you're asking and being intentional.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss, I think it was Tim Ferriss that wrote the 5-Hour Workweek book.
Mm.
That one has always fascinated me because in the book, so many good points, but one of the ones that really stuck with me was being intentional and reaching out to somebody that you think would never respond to you. And so I took this as in the context of LinkedIn, reaching out to somebody that might have written 10 different books, been in a movie, whatever the case is, politician, doesn't matter. But somebody that you would think, oh, this person wouldn't entertain me as this small entrepreneur, right? And it's interesting because I did. I actually reached out to somebody that I heard in a podcast on the Diaries of the CEO, and they responded. And I was very
Amazing.
kind of
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised, but I also was like, there's some validity to this advice. So I think the same thing can go with seeking a mentorship, because you are who you surround yourself by. And so even if it's not just a one-on-one mentorship, finding a way to make a board. I've seen that be really successful for companies where you've got 5-6 different owners that come in once a month. They just talk about business stuff, because at the end of the day, you are who you surround yourself by. And if you can make a connection with somebody that can propel you forward, or you can help them, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. And just don't be intimidated either. I know it's easy to be intimidated, but at the end of the day, they put their pants on the same way as you. So, and they've been in your shoes. So I think a majority of people genuinely want to help and be
Yeah.
helpful, especially with younger people that are looking to find their way too. So
That's such a Texas saying that you said. They all put their pants on the same way. I've heard
yeah.
it though. Everybody puts their britches on the same way. So when he said it,
Nice.
I like twisted it in my mind. I'm like, no, he said that wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's funny. Yeah.
That's Well, Austin, I have enjoyed this so much. I think that hopefully there's people that can take bits and pieces from this, because you talked about so many things that just aren't talked about, and so many different just philosophies and ideas that can be implemented within a business to propel it forward. So hopefully some people can find some value out of that and use it for their business to try and bring it forward, or their company to bring them forward more. But do you have anything that you wanted to touch on, any way that people can reach you, anything that we didn't cover?
No, I don't think so. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very accessible and very responsive. So if anybody's just looking for some advice, I'm happy to be a sounding board and help. So
Well,
yeah, I appreciate
fantastic.
it. Lauren Craylo. We got to change your last name.
I
No,
know, I know. I do need to do that. I think that in business, I think I'm still going to keep it the same. I think
I
in my
got
personal life, I'll change
branded.
it, but we'll see. So, well, thank you everybody who tuned into the live. It was such a blast. If you have any more questions for Austin, as usual, happy to make that connection, or reach out to him directly, because he is on LinkedIn. So I hope everybody has a great Thursday, and I will see everybody next week. So until next time, bye guys.